Alright, what's up? Arthur here, and welcome to a new Black Ops 3 video. In fact, welcome to a new Black Ops 3 Best Class setup video. And of course, as you can tell by the title, in this one, we're going to take a look at the HVK-30. Now, this gun reminds me of the Type 25 from Black Ops 2, meaning that for starters, yes, it does have a pretty solid fire rate from assault rifles, it's also pretty deadly at close range. However, it also has a pretty significant amount of recoil, meaning you might struggle at medium to long range. Maybe not so much at medium range, but at long range you definitely are at a bit of a disadvantage. Anyway, with that being said, because of that I decided to make a class that is more suited for close range engagements. So apart from that, let's get right to it. Now for starters, we have a load of attachments, starting things off with the suppressor. Now I'm pretty sure that every single one of you knows exactly what the suppressor does, especially since this attachment hasn't changed over the years. It basically makes sure that you do not show up on the minimap when you fire your weapon, and since it is a stealth class, the suppressor is definitely a must. Next up we have the grip. Now like I said before, this gun does kick quite a bit. It has quite a bit of recoil, making this one pretty tough to use at medium to long range. However, the grip is simply going to reduce that recoil by a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, it's 12.5%. Simply correct me if I'm wrong, because I have yet to look this up. Honestly, I haven't watched nearly enough in-depth videos this year. It's fine though, it's going to reduce your recoil by a little bit, making it a little bit easier to handle at medium to long range. Next up, as always, we have Quick Draw. Now this is another attachment that I pretty much always use. Honestly, it makes weapons just so much more deadly at close range when you use this one. Anyway, it basically makes sure you can zoom in a little bit faster, and that's literally all it does. But like normally speaking, if you manage to hit your opponent before he hits you, you're more than likely going to win that gunfight. So that's why I pretty much always use Quick Draw. It's essential when it comes down to winning close range gunfights. And then finally, we have the stock. Now the stock, for those that don't know, is going to allow you to move a little bit faster whilst you're aiming down the sights. Personally, when it comes down to close range gunfights, I tend to strafe a lot. I tend to strafe to the left and the right a lot. But even at long range, I tend to strafe a lot. Just because me personally, my accuracy isn't too great. I mean, my accuracy isn't fantastic. Let's just put it that way. It's kind of average. And I personally think that it's easier to stay on target by simply strafing to the left and the right than it is by actually aiming precisely. That's one thing that I've noticed. Definitely give that a shot if you haven't done so just yet, and if you also struggle a bit at long range. And then finally, we've got 3 perks, and that's it. For starters, we of course have Ghost. This one goes hand in hand with the suppressor. Ghost makes sure that you do not show up on the minimap when there's an enemy UAV up in the air. However, for this to work, you do have to move around. So you can't use this while sitting in a corner. And then it also makes sure that you do not show up on the minimap when planting or defusing bombs, or while controlling score streaks. So if you want to hop in your Talon, you can do so when using Ghost without your opponents knowing exactly where you're at. Then next up for perk 2, we have Scavenger. Now I'm pretty sure that this comes as a shocker to some of you. Normally speaking, I always use Hardwire. Now why didn't I use Hardwire in this case? Very simple. Like I said, this gun reminds me of the Type 25, right? So it does have a pretty considerable fire rate. So that also means that you burn through ammo. In this case, I'm not using extended mag, so I don't start off with a little extra ammo. So Scavenger to me seems like a bit of a must, especially if you use some of the higher end scores. In fact, if you even so much want to get a talent, you'll probably need Scavenger, just because in that case you also need what, like 1100 points? And I'm pretty sure you'll run out of ammo before you manage to do that, unless you play something like Domination or Hardpoint. But in my case, I always play Team Deathmatch, either Team Deathmatch or Free For All, sometimes Kill Confirm, so Scavenger is pretty essential in my case. And then finally for perk 3, we have Dead Silence, which once again goes hand in hand with Ghost and also the suppressor. Dead Silence is simply going to silence your footsteps. Personally, I think that it's way too easy to sound horn in this game, and Dead Silence is pretty much going to counter that. It's going to make sure that your enemies have a hard time hearing you. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Then finally for my streaks, in this case I was using the UAV, the Guardian, and then finally the Hardened Sentry. I basically wanted to try out this setup, and honestly, it's pretty deadly. Give it a go. But of course, when it comes down to score streaks, it's really up to you. You could go for like the UAV, the Talon, the Reps, the Hater, the Wraith. They're all pretty decent. Some are kind of bad, like the Power Core, but most of them are definitely usable. Anyway, with that said, if you've got a pretty solid HVK-30 setup, then definitely be sure to share that one in the comments for others to try out. Also, if you enjoyed this video, some supports, a like rating would be very much appreciated. If not, that's cool. If you want to, you can also follow me on Twitter, or Facebook, or Instagram. You can find all those links in the description. And then finally, as always, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for the continued support. And I will catch you in the next one. Take it easy.